Good evening, wrestling fans. We're your hosts, Lewis
and Jaden, and this is Evolution of Pro Wrestling.
Welcome back, fans. This week's topic is going to be a good one. Greatest matches of all time. We're going to be talking about every single match that we could think of, from every single promotion to NWA, WCW, WWF, and WWE, even ECW. Matches that you won't even believe. These matches go back to the 80s, Jaden, and into the Attitude Era, going into the new millennium. These matches that I think would be the best, to me, I'm going to name my first one. Ric Flair versus Ricky Steamboat. That match happened at the Clash of the Champions, when Ricky Steamboat won his first World Heavyweight Championship against Ric Flair. You was too young at that time. You probably wasn't around for that match.
I have a favorite match too. My favorite match was John Cena versus Umaga at the Royal Rumble. John Cena really didn't have a chance of winning that match, but that's what made the match so intense. Those men were firing power moves at each other, and it was really crazy.
Well, if you look at it, what led up to the match, because John Cena originally was hurt. He got hurt before the match, got put through a table a week before. And like you said, nobody thought he was going to compete in the match, but he ended up doing it. And he won, and it was a last man standing match, which was a match for the ages, which they said in the Royal Rumble that was his, JBL even said it, to quote JBL, that was one of his best performances since winning the title at WrestleMania 21. But he has other matches that we can name later on. But if you want to talk about great matches, let's talk about Undertaker and Brock Lesnar, WrestleMania 30. That was the most shocking match, in my opinion, of all time, because that was the day the streak ended.
Which was very surprising.
No, it was very surprising.
It was very surprising.
Because he went what, 21-0?
21, yes.
21-0 in WrestleMania, since WrestleMania 7. And nobody was thinking that Brock Lesnar was going to beat him. But he actually did. He beat him 1, 2, 3, and it took, I believe it was 3 F5s to beat him. But I think that The Undertaker could have won, but I was shocked myself, and it was very surprising that when it came to a match at that type of attitude in that time, it shocked everybody. But I don't think that was the best match. You got other matches like Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 10, when they fought in the first ever ladder match, which transcended the business in all of WrestleMania, in all ladder matches, because it actually stole the show that night at WrestleMania 10 when those two fought. You understand? And me as a fan growing up, I know if you've seen ladder matches, but what do you think can outperform that match?
I think what can outperform that match was one of the most hardcore matches of all time. Edge versus Mick Foley.
And what makes that match surpass
those
Razor
men
and Shawn Michaels?
Went crazy. They were hitting each other in the head with bats, barbed wire. Even at the end, Edge did one of the most hardcore things. He speared Mick Foley through a fire table. That takes a lot of guts to do that.
Okay, I give you that. I give you that it was a very hardcore match. It was an excellent match that transcended Edge's career. But can you compare that match to Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon, which these two are officially in the Hall of Fame, that no one would have ever thought that match would take place and transcend the business what it is today?
See, now, match. I'm not knocking that match off, because it was a great match. It was a very good match. But Mick Foley versus Edge, it was more hardcore. It was more intensity. It was more crazy.
There was more barbed wire. There was a barbed wire bat. As you said, there was a flaming table. And even Lita got involved. But still, I think the Razor Ramon and the Shawn Michaels ladder match was better. But you have your opinion, I have mine. That's what the show is about, talking about certain matches, the greatest matches of all time. Which also, speaking of certain matches of all time, which I love personally, which shocked me of all, Ronda Rousey and Sasha Banks.
Yes.
That shocked me. That was an excellent match. That there's still people that talk about it. That everybody wanted to see this match. And they pretty much stole the show that night at the Royal Rumble when the moves they were doing, the submissions they were doing, and it was really intense. It actually looked kind of personal, but I don't think there's any other match in this era that could live up to that hype. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, a match that transcended a little in the organization of WWE was the first ever Money in the Bank match, which had the competitors of Edge, Shawn Benjamin, Kane, Chris Jericho, and Chris Benoit.
You're absolutely
Now,
right.
that match was really, really crazy, which led to Edge winning that match to become the first ever Money in the Bank holder.
Okay. And now, do you honestly think that the generation now, compared to the first ever Money in the Bank WrestleMania match, could live up to the hype? Like, you have ladder matches now. Okay, you got the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. You have some of them. But I think the first ever WrestleMania 21 match, Money in the Bank, did awesome. Did very awesome. But I don't think there's any that could live up to the hype now. Like, it's totally different compared to back then. When you talk about ladder matches and TLC matches and stuff like that, you can talk about WrestleMania 17 with the Hardy Boys, Edge and Christian, and the Dudley Boys. That match, to this day, people talk about that match because it was an excellent match that people wanted to see more. They wanted to see more matches. They wanted to see more ladder matches and TLC matches for the title. And I think that's what brought up the Money in the Bank match.
But you know what? I feel like what hyped the match up more was when Edge took a risk of his body, like climbing on a really high ladder and spearing Jeff Hardy.
That was one.
That took a lot of guts to do that.
Of course it took guts. When it comes to stuff like that, that means he was very athletic.
Yes.
When he was in the ring, he was very athletic. I couldn't deny that. But I think when he had that match, that skyrocketed his career from there. Because he went from Edge and Christian to the Rated R Superstar. And then that's what brought him to the match, as you say, with Mick Foley at WrestleMania 22. But I think I could think of a better match than that. Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 26.
Very good match.
Career versus the streak. Nobody thought Shawn Michaels was going to lose. They thought, since he was fighting The Undertaker the second time, because he lost at WrestleMania 25. And they thought he came so close to ending the streak, but a lot of people wanted to see that second match. And they did.
Now, Dad, who did you want to see win that match?
Honestly, The Undertaker. You know, I wanted to see The Undertaker win that match because Shawn Michaels, yes, he's a great athlete, but I don't think he could beat The Undertaker.
Dad, I disagree. I think if Shawn Michaels would have won that match, Shawn Michaels, if that never would have been a career-ending match, Shawn Michaels could have skyrocketed.
I don't think so.
I think so.
But we can debate about that the entire night, Jaden, but it's going to be a no-win situation for either one of us. You know, but we were just talking about the WrestleMania TLC match. We talked about the Dudley Boys. Remember, there was also a great match between the Dudley Boys and the Hardy Boys. Those two had an awesome match that people to this day still talk about. When it comes to certain tag team matches in the ladder match era, the Dudley Boys, Edge and Christian, the Hardy Boys, there was M&N, that was Johnny Nitro and Mercury. Those two, they all transcended that ladder match. You know what I mean? And when it comes to the Dudleys and the Hardy Boys, I believe they were the ones that created this TLC match and ladders, tables, ladders, and chairs match.
And let's not forget, the Dudley Boys are infamous for using tables in really creative ways.
Of course they are. And that's why they call it, and they always do the 3D. Their 3D is the best. Like, once you hear, Devon, get the table, everybody gets hyped up. Even I used to get hyped up when we used to watch that. So, when it comes to matches like that, it's kind of hard to think about old matches. But as we talk about, Jay, remember, you're new school, I'm old school. I love the old school wrestling, which brings me to another one, which I always talk about and will always talk about. Ricky Steamboat against Macho Man Savage at WrestleMania 3. Stole the show in my opinion. Both great athletes. Unfortunately, Randy Savage isn't with us anymore, but they both made it to the Hall of Fame. But you're younger than me. You might think something is better than that, which I don't think
Now,
there is.
speaking of good matches, we can come to the new school now. Shinsuke Nakamura versus AJ Styles at WrestleMania.
Okay.
Those two guys had They
had an excellent match. They had an excellent match at WrestleMania. But this all started. They've had plenty of matches. They had matches at WrestleMania. They had matches in Japan, and they continued their matches. But that one match at WrestleMania, they transcended themselves for the talent, for the actions they were doing. Nobody thought that AJ was going to beat Shinsuke Nakamura. I personally thought Shinsuke was going to win, but hey, I was wrong, okay? I ain't afraid to admit I was wrong, but it was an excellent match. But you also got a clash of two of the past, Sting versus Triple H. Nobody thought they were going to see this match at WrestleMania 31, especially towards the end when you had DX and Triple H Triple H and the NWO. So imagine you got that, and by the way, congratulations to the DX for making the Hall of Fame. That was an excellent match, which people thought it was WCW and NWO. So imagine other matches like Undertaker and Randy Orton at WrestleMania 21. What do you think about that?
Undertaker versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania 21. Those guys had a pretty competitive match. Now, that was one of the best matches, in my opinion, that's one of the best matches I have seen in a long time at WrestleMania.
Well, you know why that match happened, right? Because Randy Orton was trying to make a name for himself. That's pretty much what made him become the Legend Killer. That he just went from person to athlete to try to make a name for himself, which also made him have that hardcore match with Mick Foley at Backlash. Those two had a crazy match that it was tacks and barbed wires and chairs, and they just all went into it like, holy cow, it was a bloody match.
Now we can get into more hardcore matches. Vengeance 2006, Sabu versus John Cena and a Lumberjack Extreme Rules match.
In Vengeance, yes. That was
those guys put each other through absolute madness. Like, the match was absolutely insane, especially to add on to it. It was a Lumberjack Extreme Rules match.
Of course. It was ECW and WWE in both sides. And it was a battle after that because then they just took over. Like, it was an all-out brawl that happened in the match. You know what I mean? And that's the kind of thing people want to see now with the Lumberjack matches. And the Lumberjack matches were a thing that were good in the past. But when you talk about matches, there's such matches as a triple threat match. In WrestleMania 20, you had Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and Chris Benoit for the World Heavyweight title. That match people still talk about to this day. That was an awesome match because these three athletes that transcended the business, and now you got Shawn Michaels, who's a Hall of Famer, and Triple H is about to be a Hall of Famer with DX. So
now, speaking of more good matches, how about we get into the Wyatt family versus the Shield in the Elimination Chamber 2014.
Man, that was a battle.
Now, those guys had something going for a little bit, and at Elimination Chamber, they finally settled their differences.
They sure did, and these were two of the top factions at the time when they were just battling with each other, and the Wyatt family did prevail in that match, which not many people thought they were going to, and they did. So it's like, wow, how were they able to beat the Shield if the Shield was so strong? So that was surprising to everybody. But you also got matches such as Undertaker and Triple H at WrestleMania 27.
Oh yeah.
That's when a month before that, The Undertaker returned. And nobody expected for Triple H to come back right after him. And no words were even said. They just looked at each other, looked at WrestleMania sign. That's what said it all. I challenge you to a match at WrestleMania 27. and the match was a no holds barred match and became phenomenal. It was, oh my God, like they built up another one the year after because it was so intense that they ended up having another one in Hell in a Cell at the end of an era.
Which made the match more interesting.
Exactly.
Shawn Michaels was a special guest referee and super kicked Undertaker, and Undertaker still managed to kick out.
Exactly, and that's why they called it the end of an era, because that's what made it so surprising that the Undertaker was still able to fend both of them and still win the match. So when it comes to greatest matches, that's one of them. But there's another one that I think is great, is Shawn Michaels versus Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 14. When the Stone Cold era began, when Stone Cold won his first WWE title, which I think transcended the business in the Attitude Era, when Stone Cold took over completely and said, I'm going to do what I got to do. I'm going to take on all challengers, and we're going to go from there.
Now, speaking of more good matches, we can talk about Undertaker's half-brother, Kane. Those two men had matches on 2 occasions. An Inferno match and an ambulance.
Three. I'm sorry to cut you off, but it was actually 3. It was an Inferno match. It was one at WrestleMania, the first one. Then it was WrestleMania 20. So they fought 3 times, and other matches including in that, which probably many more. But that Inferno match was actually the first ever Inferno match in the WWE history, which caught a lot of people's attention because they thought that Kane was going to win, that he was too strong that the Undertaker was too weak for him. But Kane ended up losing, and I'm like, oh my God, Inferno match. Like, how can, and then many more happened after that first Inferno match.
We could go to the Buried Alive match now. Now, it's like it's flip-flop. Now, Kane won that match, but Kane got lucky. Kane had help of the Nexus. Now, that is what made the match super interesting. Now, Kane had help, but sadly, Undertaker lost the match. But the match was by far a great match.
Of course it was a great match.
Well, that's at the time when Paul Bearer was on Kane's side.
Of course. Well, Undertaker's had many great matches. There's no denying that. But there is other matches that many people think is better. Like Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns in a last man standing match on Monday Night Raw. These two destroyed each other. Like, I don't know how they were able to get up and continue fighting the way they did. Because it was like nerve-wracking seeing these two go at it with each other. But it was insane when they had that match. And that, I can say, can go in the record books as one of the greatest matches of all time in WWE history.
I'd say those guys had really good matches for about 5 months. Because those guys went at it for a very long time.
No, of course. And when you see these two in action, they look like they was very personal. Like, very, very personal. And they just destroyed each other left and right with tables and ladders and ambulances and stuff like that. And it was just insane, but that's the thing. A lot of people want to see more hardcore matches, but you don't see too many of that anymore.
Now, speaking of more hardcore matches, you also have Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman in the ambulance match.
Of course.
Now, I think what made that match more intense and more crazy was when Braun Strowman flipped over the ambulance while Roman Reigns was inside.
Yeah, that was intense, which that's why they call this man the monster among men, to, do that. And yes, that's what people want to see. Bring hardcore back. Like, hardcore is exciting to see these hardcore matches. See the kendo sticks and the barbed wire and the chairs and the ladders and tables and all that stuff. Like, many people want to see that now. You know what I mean? And that's what the business, to me, is missing in certain aspects. But, that's why we have difference of opinions with certain matches. But when it also comes to certain matches, as an old school person, some people that are watching, I remember Ric Flair versus Antonio Inoki. Great all-star wrestlers, both Hall of Famers. I will never forget them. To this day, that match still comes into my mind. You know, but you also have WrestleMania 30. Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton, Batista for the World Heavyweight title. I know you fans remember that. That's when Daniel Bryan was fighting the odds and took the title from the Authority. Excellent match.
Now, Dad, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Do you know who won that match?
Daniel Bryan won the match.
And did he make it interesting, or was Batista and Randy Orton working together?
At a point, they were working together until it came out, and they said, you know what? I want to win the title. Batista's like, I want to win the world title. But remember, it first started when Triple H fought Daniel Bryan, which to me was an awesome match at WrestleMania 30 before Daniel Bryan went on to win the title, because Triple H was determined to stop him from winning the title, but he lost. Daniel Bryan won, you know. But you also have another great match that many people like, which I had mentioned, Bring Back Hardcore. Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins in TLC, having a TLC match, which these two tore each other apart. They put ladders and chairs. That Seth Rollins even suplexed Dean Ambrose into a whole bunch of chairs during that match. And the fans went nuts because that's the stuff they want to see, the hardcore stuff. And that's what made the match more effective and more interesting during that battle.
Now, I wouldn't say this match was hardcore, but this match was brutal. This match holds one of the best views of all time. Mick Foley versus Undertaker. Now, Mankind versus Undertaker. Now, those guys fought.
You talk about King of the Ring.
King of the Ring.
Of course, Hell in a Cell.
Hell in a Cell.
Come on, that match. There's people today that still talk about it because he was the first person ever to get thrown off a Hell in a Cell and get thrown through the Hell in a Cell. Like, it was just crazy that the man got put through a table. He got put through a cell. He got put on top of tax. He just got destroyed. But yet he gave The Undertaker a battle that nobody to this day forgets what Mick Foley did. Because Mick Foley is the hardcore legend. Hall of Famer. Hardcore legend. Not so many people give him credit for it, but I give him credit because he paid his dues in the business. But when you talk about matches like that, what about Shawn Michaels and Triple H? SummerSlam, non-sanctioned street fight match. That's when Shawn Michaels returned to the business after a back injury, ended up beating Triple H, but not before they ended up going through tables and ladders and chairs. You know, this is what great matches are all about. What match you have in mind?
A match I have in mind. You know, I was actually going to agree with that match. That match, now let's not forget, Triple H, to this day, people still talk about it. Triple H uses a sledgehammer. Now, that match was very, very bloody. And I thought Shawn Michaels wasn't going to win that match.
There's many people that thought Shawn Michaels wasn't going to win that match.
To me, he got lucky. He got lucky that match.
Well, that's the thing, that when it comes to certain matches like that, there's a lot of people, a lot of athletes that are the underdog in that match. And Shawn Michaels was the underdog in that match. But he ended up prevailing in that match. You know, but there's other matches that many people never thought they would see. Dream match, which brings us to John Cena versus The Rock at WrestleMania 29 for the World Heavyweight title. That nobody thought John Cena was going to beat The Rock. Because remember, the year before, The Rock beat John Cena in front of his hometown in Miami, here in Florida. They ended up going to WrestleMania 29. John Cena ended up taking the title and ended up shocking everybody. And that's when The Rock passed the torch over to John Cena. But there's one match in particular I want to tell you about, Jaden, that many fans, older fans, might know. Roddy Piper versus Greg the Hammer Valentine at the first ever Starrcade. They had a dog collar match. Do you know what a dog collar match is? They would put a dog collar with a chain, a 10-foot chain around their neck. These guys had such a brutal match that Roddy Piper's jaw was broken. That it was so real that they thought these guys hated each other. But it was outstanding. And it's what brought out the hardcore out of these two legends and in the business, you know. So when you talk about certain matches, that match really stands out in my opinion anyway.
Now, a match that stands out to me is Undertaker versus Batista at Backlash in a last man standing for the World Heavyweight title.
I think Batista could have won that match.
Batista could have won that, but they gave it back to The Undertaker because both men were down at the count of 10. Now, the match was really brutal it got more and more brutal at the ending when Batista speared The Undertaker off of the stand where the WWE superstars come down, walk into the ring.
Mm-hmm. And it was a match to live up to. They lived up to the hype. They lived up to every match they had because remember, Undertaker and Batista, they fight at WrestleMania 23. Undertaker won the World Heavyweight title from Batista, which they thought Batista was going to break the streak. Undertaker was red hot. The man was on a rampage. He ended up winning the Royal Rumble, going into WrestleMania, and taking out Batista, making him another victim of the streak. You know, but we can go on forever when it comes to matches, Jaden.
Now,
you know,
it's another I Quit match that Batista was in for the WWE Championship at SummerSlam. John Cena versus Batista.
You're absolutely
now,
right.
Now, those guys went at it. Now, I could say that match stands out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially at the end when Batista said, "I quit," when John Cena put him literally through the floor.
Of course. And that's the thing. After he said, "I quit," is when he did the attitude adjustment to him and just put him right through. And a lot of fans were like, wow, what just happened? Like, did that really just happen? Did John Cena literally attitude adjustment him even though he said, "I quit" already? You know, but remember, those two fought for the first time at SummerSlam before. And that was a dream match that nobody thought they were going to see. And Batista won that match when John Cena tried to jump off the top rope and Batista caught him with the powerbomb and ended up winning. And that's what transcended their careers as well when they're like, wow, we want to see this match again. But then that's when Batista was a heel after that when he lost. But it's many matches that stand out, Jaden. There was another old school one, Mr. Perfect against Bret Hart at SummerSlam. That is what transcended Bret Hart's career. He won the Intercontinental title for the first time against Mr. Perfect. And it was a day to remember as a kid, as a fan, when you saw these guys coming up that people never thought they would become superstars. You know, but as I said, I'm old school, Jaden. You don't know much about that. You like the new school. You know, you like these new school matches like, you know, AJ Styles and Shinsuke, or also, which is a match I like, actually new school, AJ Styles versus Finn Balor at TLC. That actually, AJ Styles was a fill-in for Bray Wyatt because unfortunately Bray Wyatt was not able to compete against the Demon King. But then AJ Styles filled in. It was a hell of a match. Like, that was a dream match that people wanted to see. You know, I know you saw that match, and I saw that match. What did you think about that match?
The match was really, really crazy. Now, those two guys were like underdogs of the match. Now, it wasn't a hardcore match, or it wasn't like really intense, but those guys really did put on a show.
It was an athletic match. It was a technical match, which it had technical wrestling, which some also today in this era, there's not too many technical matches. That I used to like the technical matches back then. They do the submissions. They do all these holds, which make the match more intense, you know, and not too many people know about that now. You know, when you talk about technical, you got Stone Cold versus Bret Hart at WrestleMania 13 in an I Quit match. This is what transcended Stone Cold's career. And when it came to something like that, not too many people saw it. But to me, the main match that stands out, Roman Reigns versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania. That's the match that I say Undertaker was better.
No, Dad, I disagree.
How? How are you going to say Undertaker wasn't better?
Because Roman Reigns claimed his yard when
So
he beat
what?
Undertaker.
Undertaker's had a WrestleMania streak forever, beating people at WrestleMania.
Yeah, and he
everybody.
was one of the people, the second person
Jaden, come
to
on,
beat him.
that's ridiculous. You trying to tell, even though he beat him at WrestleMania, that doesn't mean he's a better wrestler than the Undertaker. I'm sorry.
I disagree.
He's the big. He got the big yard. He's the big dog, and Undertaker is the man. He's the man that everybody respects in the locker room. And you trying to say that Undertaker's not better than Roman Reigns?
No, I don't think so. In this new age, no, I don't think so.
To me, Undertaker was the better man in this match.
Since you say that, I challenge you to a wrestling match.
What? You challenged me to a match?
Yes.
You heard it, fans. My son just challenged me to a wrestling match. Tune in next week to our show. You're going to see that wrestling match.